The police gave this lady every chance to back off, but she didn't. He loved road raging so much, he ended up getting 37 years for it. And this crime ring couldn't outsmart a bear investigator. What are some of the wildest crimes people will commit? Let's find out, starting back with number 6, no backing off. Sydney Wilson, a former Georgetown University basketball captain and mental health advocate, became the focus of a deeply polarizing incident. The 33-year-old, remembered for her leadership on the court and commitment to mentorship, wound up with a welfare check that ended with her going after a cop with a knife. Fairfax County Police were called to Wilson's apartment after concerns were raised about her mental state. Officer Peter Liu, trained in crisis intervention, responded alone. After a prolonged attempt to engage Wilson peacefully, she opened the door holding a knife and instantly slashed at Liu, forcing him to retreat. Body cam footage showed Liu repeatedly urging her to back up, but she continued going for him with her knife raised, leading to a fatal response. The incident sparked immediate public outcry, with body cam footage polarizing viewers. Some commended Liu for maintaining composure and prioritizing safety under pressure, while others questioned the lack of a mental health professional on the scene. Police Chief Kevin Davis defended Liu's actions, emphasizing the inherent risks and affirming his adherence to training. But Wilson's tragic passing also ignited controversy when Georgetown University's women's basketball team publicly mourned her passing. The tribute, intended to honor her legacy as a player and mentor, faced backlash after details of the encounter emerged. Critics accused the university of overlooking the circumstances of the incident, while supporters argued the complexity of mental health crisis demanded compassion. Wilson's legacy remains multifaceted. A graduate of Georgetown and an advocate for mental health awareness, she had earned a certification in adult mental health first aid. Her work with young athletes and dedication to uplifting others also left a lasting impact. Despite her achievements, the events leading to her passing highlight ongoing challenges in addressing mental health crisis effectively. It's worth noting that these types of confrontations, particularly in situations involving mental health crisis, are far more serious than many people may realize, especially in a confined space like a hallway. Law enforcement officers are trained to treat knife threats with extreme caution because of their unique dangers. The 21-foot rule, often cited in police training, demonstrates how quickly a person with a knife can close the distance on an officer, often within just 1.5 seconds. And unlike firearms, knives present a continuous threat. Ultimately, whatever was happening with Wilson on that day caused her to act the way she did and put the cop in an impossible situation. And no matter how you look at it, the results were tragic. Number 5, road raging. Trevor Dahl, a 24-year-old from Noblesville, Indiana, is set to spend 37 years in prison after a shocking series of road rage incidents escalated into confrontations and a crazy plan to silence witnesses. Dahl's incidents went down over the course of a few days, leaving everyone wondering how simple traffic disputes could spiral into full-blown road rage. The trouble began with what seemed like a minor everyday annoyance. Dahl, driving a loaner Acura from a dealership, was honked at by another driver for blocking a lane near a busy intersection. However, it must not have been one of those friendly-sounding honks that you do as a polite reminder to another driver, because the situation took a pretty intense turn. Dahl, who apparently has issues with those who may be critical of his driving, followed the offending honking vehicle, cutting it off and firing multiple rounds into the car. One of the bullets struck the driver in the leg, causing a crash with another car. Police later traced Dahl's vehicle using license plate reader cameras and matched bullet casings from the scene to ammunition found in his possession. As you may expect from this total overreaction to getting beeped at, Dahl's road rage wasn't an isolated incident. Just days earlier, Dahl had been involved in another road rage episode. This earlier dispute occurred when a truck driver was pulling into a business to salt the parking lot. Dahl, who was apparently driving like a maniac behind the truck, was forced to hit his brakes when the truck slowed to make its turn. Enraged by this minor inconvenience, Dahl stopped his car in the street and began shouting threats at the truck driver. Because why should he have to slow down just because the truck didn't want to tip, right? Some people are very selfish like that. When the truck driver yelled back for Dahl to leave, Dahl lost his mind even more. So he pulled out his firearm, fired a shot into the air, and then sped off. Authorities later connected Dahl to this incident through information provided by witnesses and surveillance footage which captured details of his vehicle. Further forensic analysis revealed that the shell casing from this encounter matched those recovered from the even worse road rage shooting days later, tying Dahl to both events. But it gets weirder. Dahl, who was already in custody at this point, allegedly attempted to hire a triggerman to eliminate 2 witnesses who could testify against him for trying to take out the honking car. Court documents revealed handwritten letters detailing his intentions and a chilling conversation with an undercover officer posing as the triggerman. In these exchanges, Dahl described his plan using coded terms. He's crafty like that, offering payment after his release from prison. But his efforts to conceal the plot failed, despite his clever use of code, leading to additional charges. Dahl's history of reckless behavior wasn't new to authorities. Records showed prior arrests for burglary and possession of illegal substances. Witnesses who knew Dahl also knew of his tendency to carry a firearm and his frustration with other drivers. During his sentencing, Dahl expressed remorse, which was probably pretty hollow remorse considering he just tried to get rid of witnesses, leaving very little room for leniency. His plea deal led to the dismissal of conspiracy charges, but the attempts, paired with his dangerous behavior, resulted in a 37-year prison term. This story is a reminder that we all are good drivers, but we all occasionally make mistakes. So maybe don't get so mad because you have to wait a second longer at a light, quickly jam your brakes, or slightly turn to avoid hitting someone. Because you never know who's in the other car or exactly how their day is going. Number 4, closet fears. A student from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro uncovered a bizarre situation that still feels like something out of a horror movie, even almost 5 years later. The student, known only as Maddie, lived off campus at an apartment complex near the university, had been noticing her clothes disappearing and mysterious handprints showing up on her bathroom walls. For a while, she and her roommates joked that it might be a ghost, but the reality was far stranger. One afternoon, Maddie heard noises coming from her closet. She said she thought it sounded like a raccoon or something, which wouldn't make sense since she lived in an apartment, so she asked who's there, not really expecting to hear anything back, but instead, she heard a man's voice respond, which is pretty much the worst possible outcome, right? So she opened the door, which means she's far braver than we would have been, and found 30-year-old Andrew Swafford sitting inside wearing her clothes and carrying a bag stuffed with more of her belongings. He had even put on one of her hats and complimented her before asking for a hug, which she understandably turned down. But somehow, Maddie kept her cool with this wacko, called for help, and distracted Swafford with polite conversation until authorities arrived. How Swafford got into the apartment remains unclear, as there were no signs of forced entry. The thing is, this wasn't the first unsettling event Maddie experienced in that apartment. Just weeks earlier, strangers had reportedly been found in their living room, prompting the locks to be changed. Even so, Maddie felt unsafe staying there, which is pretty much like, no kidding, right? Swafford was later arrested and faced multiple charges, including larceny and identity theft, with a bond set at $26,000. There's no public information about his sentencing or what happened afterwards, but the story remains one of the stranger events to surface. But seriously, how incredible is Maddie for handling this the way she did? She kept calm and talked to this guy until the cops came. Who knows how quickly that whole situation could have turned, you know? She finds a crazy guy cross-dressing in her closet and she just talks him down. That's like final girl level badassness in our opinion. And the fact that she found someone in her apartment more than once means that we'd be leaving very quickly and sending over a lawyer. Number 3, Florida Pyro Woman. Destiny Lanai Johnson, a 26-year-old from Miami, Florida, did some seriously Florida woman-type things after a series of incidents left both her Tinder date and fellow inmates caught up in her Florida woman chaos. It all began when Johnson matched with a guy on Tinder. Their first meeting seemed uneventful, simply involving a casual hangout near a Miami hotel. However, things took a turn a week later. Johnson called her Tinder date early one morning, asking him to meet her at the same hotel. So he's like, sure, why not? And heads over. When he pulls up, he sees her walking through the parking lot towards him with some sort of large jug, which was obviously very confusing. But what was more confusing was that apparently the jug was full of gasoline. Without offering any explanation for the jug whatsoever, she said her car needed repairs and asked for money. Confused but wanting to help, the guy reluctantly handed her $60. But instead of gratitude, Johnson's demeanor shifted. She immediately poured gasoline inside his car and ignited it with a lighter while he was still inside. The victim managed to escape, extinguishing the flames on his body by rolling on the ground, but his car was destroyed in the blaze. After the victim escaped the flames and pulled out a firearm, Johnson fled back into the hotel. Once inside, she approached the front desk and asked staff to call 911. When officers arrived, they found her with burns and admitting she had caused the fire. Fast forward to her time in custody at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center, where Johnson got some new charges. It was reported that she entered another inmate's shower stall and engaged in some inappropriate physical contact of the kind you'd expect to hear about in jail. Fellow inmates intervened, alerting officers who quickly separated the two. While awaiting trial for attempted arson and battery, Johnson's bail remains revoked, and she continues to be held without bond. Who knows why Johnson did what she did? It's clear she's completely lost it. Maybe there was a time when she was a nice, normal girl until the corrupting powers of the great state of Florida finally infected her mind so much that she went totally insane? It seems like probably the safest thing to do these days is just to stay out of Florida. If the hurricanes don't get you, Florida man and Florida women will. Number 2, Texas Pyro Man. Fee Le Guillen, a 46-year-old man from West Harris County, Texas, is facing multiple charges after a series of events involving arson and threats with a machete. Calling them concerning would be an understatement, considering he actually followed through. Court documents reveal that Guillen first approached a neighbor's house with a red gas can, pouring gasoline on the side of the building before setting it on fire. Luckily, the fire was quickly extinguished, leaving scorch marks on the lawn and the brick facade. Moments later, Guillen moved on to another house on the same street, repeating his actions. Surveillance video shows him pouring gasoline on the driveway and front yard before lighting it. This time, the fire burned a section of the lawn before being extinguished by the homeowner, who was protecting her children, mama bear style. Adding to the chaos, Guillen allegedly threatened the second homeowner with a machete as she attempted to put out the flames with a garden hose, which had to be scary as hell for her. When deputies arrived on the scene, Guillen reportedly waved the machete at one of the officers, escalating the already tense situation. Deputies subdued him using a taser and arrested him. Authorities charged Guillen, and as of the release of this video, Guillen is being held on a $200,000 bond. But the judge warned that should Guillen actually post his bond, violating any bond conditions would result in immediate incarceration until his trial or case resolution. Despite the minimal physical damage caused by the fires, the incident understandably left everyone flipped out. It seems odd that he'd even have the chance to bond out, considering he was arrested as a crazy fire-starting machete guy. That said, running around with a machete and trying to burn down some houses, he's lucky all he got was tased and arrested. There's a lot of neighborhoods in this country that if he was pulling stuff like that on someone's front lawn, he's probably not walking away. Number 1, the overbearing investigation. 4 individuals from Los Angeles, Ruben Tamrazian, Ararat Cherkinian, Vahi Muradakanian, and Alfia Zuckerman have been charged with insurance fraud and conspiracy for their peculiar plan to cash in on luxury car damages. So, what was so peculiar about that? Well, they were staging fake damages from a bear using a life-sized bear costume. Their unusual strategy led to an investigation dubbed Operation Bearclaw by the California Department of Insurance. Detectives uncovered that the group submitted multiple claims to different insurance companies, totaling roughly $142,000 for damages allegedly caused by a bear to 3 high-end vehicles: a 2010 Rolls-Royce Ghost, a 2015 Mercedes G63 AMG, and a 2022 Mercedes E350. It all started with the crew's claim that a bear had broken into their Rolls-Royce while parked in Lake Arrowhead, a place known for black bear sightings. The scammers even provided video evidence of the supposed bear wreaking havoc inside the car, scratching the leather seats and damaging the interior. On closer inspection, however, investigators noticed something off about the bear. The department consulted a biologist from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife who confirmed the obvious. This wasn't a wild bear, but just some guy in a costume. The scratches didn't align with real bear behavior, and the video featured a suspiciously human-like walk. Digging deeper, detectives discovered 2 more insurance claims submitted by the group, all following the same pattern. Each claim featured video evidence of their furry imposter damaging the vehicles. Suspicion mounted, and a search warrant led authorities to the suspect's home, where they found the bear costume. The costume came complete with a furry snout, fake claws, and light brown fur, exactly matching the bear in their videos. As of this video, the group is facing prosecution for their ridiculous plan, with their case under review by the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office. The funniest part, and maybe the biggest giveaway aside from it clearly being a guy in a bear costume clumsily ruining cars, is that brown bears don't even live in California, let alone Southern California. That's where black bears live, and anyone who lives in those mountains would know that, since they're seen all the time. This whole scam seems like a lot of work to try and pull off though, doesn't it? Not like we're criminal masterminds here. Well, apparently some of us might be, but wouldn't it have been easier just to report the cars as stolen and sell off the parts like a normal insurance scam? The bear idea was clever since they were living right next to a place called Big Bear, but it clearly wasn't well thought out. Click to watch one of these next videos.